IMO. Joining us tonight on the couch is Senator Loren Legarda. Senator, welcome to IMO. Thank you very much for being here.
Yes.
Nice having you. If you want to speak to her directly, you can call us at 411-0181. We'll put you on air as we are live here on ANC. Sorry, by the way, thanks for being here. Appreciate it.
Yeah, nice to be here live.
Yeah, it's my first time to actually have you on a show, and I'm quite excited because everybody loves Loren Legarda. I mean,
great.
your approval ratings are always so very high, and you easily win your senatorial seats. Why do you think so many people love you? I mean, I know that's a tough question to answer as yourself, because you don't want to come off a little weird, but I think
it's best for people to say that, but also because I work hard and I take my job very seriously, and I've been in public service for quite a while, on television for 25 years, in the Senate for 10 years. But it's really difficult to say. As a public, it will be self-serving for me to answer that.
Right, I know it's tough, but when the approval ratings come out, you always see your name on top there. Does that give you a kick, or do politicians even care about those things?
Of course we do.
Yep.
And those who say they don't
are lying.
Well,
yeah, because the TV people.
That's a reaffirmation that we're doing the right thing.
Right.
And it gives me more inspiration to work even harder for the cause of the marginalized, those who need our help. When we see our approval ratings are high, that means we're probably doing the right thing.
You come from a line of journalists. Did you always want to be a reporter?
Yes, I've always wanted to become a journalist. My late grandfather, in my mother's side, whom I grew up with in the same compound in Malabon, is the late Jose P. Bautista, Joe Bautista. Obviously, you would not know him. Your grandparents would probably.
Right.
He was the editor-in-chief of the pre-Martial Law Manila Times, and he is considered, I think, one of the pillars of Philippine journalism. Many of those editors now, publishers, were his students or reporters. And in fact, Senator Aquino, Ninoy Aquino, was given his first assignment, if I'm not mistaken, to cover the Korean War by my late grandfather. Wow,
so it's really in your blood. I mean, it's in your veins. It runs through and through. But what attracts you to journalism most?
When I was young, and my grandfather would tell us about his work, I always wanted to be like him, because he would know the news ahead of time.
Right.
And he would always tell us that to be a good journalist, you had to have the ear for rumor, the nose for news, and the eye for detail. And that's a reason why probably I'm this way. I'm so OC about details, because of a journalistic instinct.
And maybe that's what makes you a great senator, at least in our eyes, in most people's eyes. Now, as a senator, you have a record number of bills passed, at least a record for a non-lawyer. How do you think you manage that also? Is it those traits that you were talking about that you find in yourself?
Mo, the advocacies that I had in my 20 years in television as a journalist were converted into still my advocacies as a senator, but this time not simply observing, chronicling, writing about it or documenting it, but actually doing something about it. What do I mean? When I used to cover battered women, and I was able to, during my first term as majority leader, I was able to enact a law that would address the issue of battered women through the Anti-Domestic Violence Act and the Anti-Trafficking Persons Act. I've always been an environmentalist at heart. In fact, in 1986, when I covered the Pasig River, the Tulyahan River, people would say, why would Loren do documentaries on rivers, on dead rivers? But then, fast forward, when I became senator, then I authored environmental legislation, which are now very, very important. The Clean Air Act, Clean Water Act, the Solid Waste Management Law. What I'm saying is that my life has come full circle from observing, documenting, being angered by realities, and being able to do something about it through legislation.
So what angers you now then about our country when you look around?
Corruption.
I mean, so
corruption, inefficiency, ineptitude, sloth, mediocrity.
Gotcha. And because you're angry about that, and because you're passionate about these things, do you think you're getting somewhere in trying to eradicate this stuff in our country?
Of course, because it angers me. It makes me do something about it and do something against it.
But you see these people with you all the time. I mean, I'm not saying you rub elbows with them or you're friends with them, but you're definitely in the same room with some of these corrupt officials that drive you absolutely crazy.
Then what do you do? If you don't act on your anger in a positive manner, then you just allow life in our country to continue this way. So the first thing to do is to lead by example, to make sure you're not eaten up by the system. And second, to work hard to make sure important legislation is passed to counter these ills of society.
Are you in the minority when you're in your position in terms of not being corrupt? I mean, when you do look around, do you believe that our government is as corrupt?
I would not want to judge my colleagues or those. There are many good people in our country, in government and out of government, just as there are bad eggs.
Right.
And that's not just in the Philippines, in each country.
Right,
that is corruption.
Right, absolutely.
But it's so unfortunate that the Philippines is considered the most corrupt country in the world. At least by institutions, and it's also in the Guinness Book of World Record.
Jeez,
and the most dangerous place to practice journalism.
Right, yes, that I know.
Second to Iraq, or perhaps equal to Iraq. I mean, those are two notorious ways to be thought of. So it's
to be put
really,
in a census with those.
It's really a big challenge for us, leaders of our country, to provide the inspiration and hope to the youth of our country.
Do you think, you probably know how bad it is more than I do, because you're there. Do you think in your lifetime you'd be able to see us eradicate corruption to an extent where people will respect us for having a clean government?
We have to. We have no choice. Otherwise, we'll go down the drain.
Because I've talked to other politicians. I said, how long do you think it'll take? The 2-3 generations? The way they say it. Some people say 20 years. Some, when I ask for a number, because it's exciting.
Not a matter of years.
It's exciting to have a number.
It's not a matter of years. It's a matter of attitude. It's a matter of doing the right thing now. Example, we have a 1.4 trillion peso budget.
Right.
Almost half of that, 47%, goes to debt service. Of course, we have to pay our debts.
Right.
30%, according to the World Bank, goes to corruption. 23% is left for food, for housing, for agriculture, for books. That's the reason why we're poor, because 90 million Filipinos have to divide the pie of only 23%. And if that 30% is not totally eliminated, and just 15%, then that would go to social services. So we must stamp out corruption.
It's obvious, right? Okay. Now, have the senatorial investigations in aid of legislation helped killing corruption?
If we did not do it, then people would say it's business as usual, then we can get away with it.
Right.
We were able to stop the NBN-ZTE deal because of the Senate investigation. We're able to uncover the web of corruption in the Department of Agriculture through the Fertilizer Fund probe. And we're able to put people on their toes. Again, people could criticize Senate for getting into investigations, but we would be reneging on our mandate of not only legislating but also investigating in aid of legislation if we do not pursue credible investigations.
Yeah, I'm seeing more of these scandals being exposed now. I think more than when I was a student and more than when I was a younger adult. Is it harder now to get away with corruptive activities? Are you guys on top of most of the things? I mean, there's always going to be corruption, like you said, in our country and in many others, but it seems like I see more scandals getting exposed, and I mean, it's a good feeling because we're seeing something being done. It's a bad feeling when you realize how much corruption is going on. But is it harder now these days to pull off something?
When you think about it, yes and no. There's still corruption everywhere. But it helps that there's a very vigilant press and there's the internet. That communications is faster, it's global, it's instantaneous. And so it's important that messages are communicated instantly. But we also have to be careful that we don't destroy reputations by falsely implicating people who are not involved.
And sometimes the interest, when it loses its thunder, when it's media thunder, because sometimes it's so exciting, but and then a new one comes along and some of it gets left behind.
That's a problem sometimes.
How do we get to be thorough?
When it's in the headlines, then it's being pursued, and when a new tragedy happens, a disaster strikes, or a new corrupt practice is exposed, then that is put in the side burner, in the back burner, and it's left hanging. So it must not be the case. That is the reason why there's the ombudsman that must act on these and file the charges and to pursue it.
Recently, we're here live, by the way, on ANC tonight with Senator Legarda. Recently, one particular bill made it past you in Senate. This is the right of reply bill.
It didn't pass in it passed in a Senate. On third reading, it's not yet a law, though.
Okay, great.
Because the lower house has not passed.
Can you, I'm not so well read in this bill. Can you just kind of summarize what we're talking about here in the right of reply? Well, it says
basically that if a person is attacked on the front page, that the person be given equal time, equal space. And during my interpellations of that measure, I'm not the author of that. I interpolated. And I had expressed my reservations for the passage of that because it is inherent upon